Hey, I'm doing a little best of retrospective as selected by a beautiful population of listeners. I would love to give this title some emphasis because then it really just gets my point across. Without emphasis, it would sound like this: please don't ask if you're worthy. With emphasis, it's please don't ask if you're worthy. And that is why we're here. Really, this is a conversation about the kinds of questions that come up from the unhealed self, from the ego, and the kinds of questions that the heart, the divine mother, your healed self, your Buddha nature would never even dream of asking. So I am coming at you on this beautiful summer day from my living room with lots happening right in front of me on the beach. And I am so glad you're here. And you know what? You can ask me anything, anytime. Woo! You can email me at support@Danielle Laporte. Give me questions for the podcast, questions about business, all the things. But please, don't ask if you're worthy. If you are interested in the life-changing power of self-compassion, if you are curious about shadow work, if you want to be more receptive to higher guidance, well, hello, I am Danielle Laporte, and this is With Love, Danielle. Hello, my loves. Today we're going to talk about worthiness and how silly, really, it is to even question our worthiness. I want to talk about the agitation that is sort of a sidecar to querying, to asking other people to validate our worth for us, because it never works out. And what I really want to say 108 times over and over again is that you are worthy. Some days I need to tell myself that. But here's the truth, as in the true reality. We don't actually need a pep talk about our worthiness. Because I know you think you need a pep talk, but just hear me out on this one, because here we are with Love, Danielle. Those kind of peps and motivationals actually bring our vibration down to the lowest common denominator. We do not need to quantify or qualify ourselves for love or for nourishment. We don't have to establish if we are deserving of more ease or happiness or reciprocity. So I want you to wrap your mind around these really big concepts about your identity, your true identity. Sparks of the infinite. Flames in the fire of creation. I'm talking about you. I'll lean on some Ram Dass here. Spiritual beings having a human experience. Spiritual beings having a human experience. So, in light of our light, capital light, asking if you're worthy, asking if you're worthy of anything, is not only kind of absurd, it's actually a distraction. It brings you down, gets you off of your path. More specifically, questioning your worth actually has us perpetuate a lie. You are the beloved. You're beautiful, as is exquisite. And asking, am I beautiful? Am I beautiful? Can we see how that actually just creates more confusion and wounding inside of us? So here's another metaphor. Imagine that you're a billionaire and you kept asking everyone around you or the God of your understanding, am I rich? Am I rich? What does that do? It just creates more confusion, more agitation, perpetuates more striving, because you can never relax if you're reinforcing a lie that you have to work to earn your keep. Asking the question if you are worthy, if you are divine, if you are beloved, if you deserve to be here, perpetuates a fallacy that you are not any of those things. But here's the thing, this kind of ridiculous, truly mad question can run the course of our lives. Decades of the striving. We're just running in a loop of illusions, right? It's like lifetimes of this Groundhog Day asking if we're worthy. Just the concept of worth versus unworth is a scam that the ego mind has on repeat. Because the unhealed self feels comfortably, strangely familiar with being unhealed, wants to keep that going. So the ego, the unhealed self, will have us running in circles. We actually can't look for our worth. We can't earn our worth. We cannot conquer it. We can't even embody our worth. We just are it. So hopefully this feels like a relief to consider. This is how I look at it. If we asked Source, the infinite, the divine mother, if I went to my divine mother, the same mother that births us all, and I said to her, am I worthy? I think she would say, oh, love, what a strange question. So then I'd have to ask myself, why did I ask that? Who in me, what part of me is asking if I am worthy? Because the soul does not ask that question. The vast heart that knows all, that is completely aware of its divinity and its connection to the infinite. Why would it ask that? It knows. But the ego is going to ask that question over and over again. Am I worthy? Am I worthy yet? How about now? Am I worthy now? Am I worthy? Let me offer some truth, potential higher truth. We're spiritual beings embodied in human form. So our souls slide into these body suitcases, body temples, to get us on this healing path in this dimension. Our souls come down here, you could say, to expand our soulfulness. It's like the soul crams itself into this reality to see what it's made of. How much more soulfulness, how much more heaven can I bring down to earth? Right? It's this process of expansion. Okay, so do this with me now. I want you to do a little visualization. Let's take a few deep breaths into the heart center. You become aware of that warm, golden, friendly quality in the center of your heart. Now envision that above you is your higher self, your soul. This being, you might see it just as golden light, has this radiant, angelic quality to it. Just breathe that in. It's like this golden sun shining down upon you. Let's say it's about 20, 21 feet above your head. Dynamic solar flares radiating in all directions. This is prana. This is life force. This is soul. It's your higher self. Your higher self is connected to the great divine. And that golden light, it's pouring into your body, to your mind. Breathe that in. So much beauty. Okay. Now, is that image clear for you? And keep breathing into your heart, the goldenness. If you're one of the people, and there's many of us who do not see things visually, just take my word for it, that this great golden higher self is radiating light into you. Okay, now we're going to shift this visual. Now imagine that you are walking away from your higher self. You're turning your back on your higher self, walking away from that light that's hovering above you. You deny that light. You split. And what you're doing is you're walking away from your wholeness. You're walking away from that unconditional love, that infinite, eternal knowing, unquestioning, without doubt, perpetual awareness that you are love itself, the beloved. You're walking away from it. Turn your back on it, away from the light. So, how's that feel? Out of touch? Does it feel tragic? Sense of separateness? When we do that, when we deny our true nature, turn our back on our light and our connectedness, on our soul, then we become less and less aware of our inherent worth. And I'm underlining and capitalizing worth, the real stuff, not the am I worthy stuff. Okay, when we start walking away, when we get lost and blinded, and there are veils to that true reality which come when we incarnate down here, we agree to forget who we are. We're here on the journey to wake up and remember. When we forget, we're probably going to be on a long trip, a decades-long trip of trying to be worthy enough. We forgot who I was. I've been hustling for years just because, absent-minded, bought into this whole interdimensional density stuff, illusion that I have to vie for my worth, that I have to earn my keep, that I'm going to prove that I belong at the table of abundance, that I'm worthy for something this lifetime. I'm worthy for someone. It's a sad visual, right? You've got all this radiance that follows you everywhere, and we're in denial of it. All that magnificence denied, all that beautiful truth denied, and all that striving unending. The worthiness trip never ends. That's the thing. Once you get on that cycle, it's endless until you wake up. The question of whether you are worthy or not, or what you think you are deserving of, is never going to give you the fulfillment that you want. You're never going to get proof of your belonging. Striving to be worthy is the most tiring, distracting, draining experience. You just feel that fatigue. So to get back to true identity and vitality and peace, we have to ask ourselves where the yearning to be worthy actually originates from. Why do we even want to be worthy? Why do we strive to become worthy? Of course, the shadow self sets us up for it, right? So the idea of worthlessness and worthiness is this complete construct. It's not a real state. Spirit, soul, heart, love is beyond duality. Love is vast and accommodates everything. But the ego just keeps us gunning for worthiness to distract us from knowing that we're whole. And I think a lot of us become obsessed with wanting to feel worthy, be told we're worthy, whatever it takes for us to feel like we've arrived. And that obsession becomes a race, and that obsessiveness becomes a kind of neuroses. It actually gets darker than this. It's going to get a little trickier. Just stay with me. So I think all that efforting to be worthy of what we want. You see how messed up this is? We come up with these desires and then we ask if we're worthy of the desires that we generated in our mind. It's such a trip. It just perpetuates even more illusions. So what happens is we'll think of even more ways that we need to improve or perfect ourselves, or we'll think of more things that we need to accomplish or acquire. But no matter how much we do, No matter how much we do, because this is such a doing, this is not a being. It's a complete departure from our natural being. All that doing to prove our worthiness is never going to be enough for the hungry ghost. So the hungry ghost being this Buddhist concept of this hungry part of ourself that will never be satiated. Bottomless pit of need and proving. Okay, stay with me. We're going to take a hard right turn because there's good news. I think that the function of the ego, the false self, the small self, is to help us wake up to our true self, our higher self. Another way to say that is the function of the darkness is to help us seek for more light. And eventually in that seeking, we wake up and find out that we are the light itself. We're the generator. We're the flashlight that's been looking for the flashlight in the dark. Lies are always, always pointers to the truth. So you've got the small self perpetually searching unconsciously for the higher self. You have the ego actually always longing for the true self, for the soul. Just like hate is actually always longing for love. Right? The duality wants to find wholeness. Falsity, even though it doesn't act this way, the false stuff wants authenticity. Fear wants to feel the divinity within, right? All of this being lost is actually this quest for divine love. And love, by the way, is the term that most mystics use to explain wholeness. Love is wholeness. Loving is an inclusive kind of awareness, an awareness that sees everything and loves what it sees. Love approaches everything with a sense, an awareness of interconnectedness. So you know that you are nature. You are connected to all sentient beings. You are with the animals. You are part of the Divine Father and the Divine Mother. You are from the realm of absolute truth. Love is expansive. Love is the experience of wholeness. So if love is all that inclusiveness, then the ego, the illusion maker, is separateness. The ego tries to break our lives into parts that are never going to get Legoed together, parts that are never going to be cohesive. Okay, so you've got that perpetuating of the search. So the small self is always seeking. And when you're always looking, what happens? You create more unrest. You get tired. The ego is the lens, right? The ego is the hunter. And the ego is going to see everything as less than, not enough, not quite there. Everything that the ego sees is deemed to be partial or unworthy or so worthy it can't connect with everything else that's unworthy around it. The ego is constantly fragmenting. The awakening is to see that we actually want to become whole. But all that fragmentation, it creates this kind of tightness, right? So you're looking. You're looking for all the places you can find your worthiness in relationships and jobs and the stuff and the status and the little hearts and the tapping and the likes, looking more, creating more agitation, finding more reasons that you're not worthy. When you're looking to find out if you are worthy, you will find reasons that you are not worthy. That searching for validation becomes part of our behavior. It defines how we walk through the world. It's like this limp. It's like this hunger that we're always carrying with us wherever we go. What's driving that perpetual searching is this really kind of dense, sticky energy of fear. And that fear permeates how we think and therefore how we behave. So here's the thing. You can't really trust that part of you that is always on the strive to know if it's worthy or not, right? So let me say that another way. The ego is not going to make the best choices for us. When we are choosing from this sense of deprivation or this idea that we are unworthy, or other end of the ego scale, when we're making choices from the sense of entitlement or righteousness, we're never going to find the love we want, and we're actually never going to create true resiliency. Resiliency is a virtue that comes from the heart. When you're in the heart center, you know that you're connected to everything else. So you can press pause on your opinions and you can hear what somebody else has to say. You can be flexible and go with the flow because you trust what's showing up in life. But if you're feeling deprived, you're never going to think clearly or have the flexibility to make choices that are really, truly healthy, right? Looking for salvation through relationships is where this really shows up, right? Salvation via relationship is the classic wounded motivation. Ego loves this, We want the best friend forever. We want the perfect, you complete me kind of partner, or the ideal social approval. Most of us desire to be desired, and most of us are seeking to be, sanctioned by someone else, either familial or romantic or societal. But here's the hook. Seeking approval is always going to generate feedback that we're inadequate. It's a no-win. We're going to find what we look for. We're going to find confirmation that we need to keep trying to measure up. It's the loop of seeking approval. We could get perceived as being too much of so many things, too spiritual, too logical, too loud, too meek, too ambitious, too needy, too woo-woo, too heavy. And then we kind of tabulate. We start to accumulate all of these so-called inadequacy labels. And sometimes we give these labels to ourselves, but we add them up as evidence that we must definitely not be worthy. Everybody knows this. Everybody knows how desperate the searching can be, years of craving and wanting and aching on workshops and getting credentialed and contracting and truly expanding. There's lots of real expansion that's happening in all of this. This is part of the trip. We're growing. But it's also that we can finally prove that we're worthy of having what we are so desperately trying to manifest. So what's the alternative? How do we find our way out? Well, the higher answer is that you aspire higher, right? You set your intention to aim for truth. Like, I want to know what love is, just to sound like a foreigner song. I know you can show me. We aim for embodying soul qualities. I want to be the soul quality. I don't want to prove my human worth to get this stuff. So I want to embody generosity. I want to be compassion. What I'm really saying here is I want to devote myself to spirit. And it's through that devotion that all the distortions of unworthiness really start to dissolve. Now, here's my really practical, hardcore, on the ground suggestion for stopping this madness, really. Stop asking yourself if you are worthy. Stop. No, stop it. Don't do it. As soon as your mind goes there, as soon as you feel you need to turn to somebody else or buy the thing that's going to prove to everybody how valuable you are, just stop. It might feel like withdrawal for a bit because I think we get this dopamine hit from hearing in some way, whether it's the like or you look great, that we're worthy. And it doesn't mean that, of course, there's going to be some days where we fish for compliments and the inner child just needs to hear that you are loved and someone's going to be there for you and everything's okay. But the difference is that's you being your spiritual adult self to say, my inner child, my wounded self needs this right now. So your higher self, your heart, is allowing your shadow self to get what it needs in that moment. It's sort of like a more conscious bid for attention. And then what happens over time is you stop making the bids. You have compassion for the fragmented bits of yourself that need to hear all those things. You have that higher awareness holding the bid. And then the need to bid starts to melt. And then eventually you can move into that more spiritually mature place where part of your spiritual practice is the restraint of seeking validation. You don't reach outside of yourself for it. You pause. You take a full breath into your heart center, into that golden, warm, luminous place. And you declare that you are love. Did you think for a second that I was going to say, you declare that I am worthy? No, we don't go there at all. We do not tarry in the question. There is no duality. The soul doesn't even ask. Okay, so this is a process, and we have been in this worthy, unworthy schism dialogue for eons, right? This is part of the human dance. So we've got some stuff to unpack. I think this is how we go about it. Part of that aspiring to face our soul, to know our true divinity, to really, be light, is that we have to bring up all those dark, dank little fears and ridiculous beliefs about our unworthiness. We have to cleanse those out of our system. So you can't cleanse it until you see it and acknowledge it, right? Those are the weeds of our thinking. So we catch ourselves vying for validation. We catch ourselves in self-critical thought. We catch ourselves talking down to ourselves again. We notice that yet again, we are reminding ourselves about how it didn't work in the past, how we fell short that one time and that time again. Yeah, okay, so we notice all that stinking thinking and we bring it into our heart center where things can be loved. You bring all that crunchy, dense, dark stuff into that golden, warm, luminous, friendly space called the heart. And what happens over time, lifetimes, is that all that crunchy stuff, that density, starts to wash away. And the ego starts to calm down. We've got more room in our psyche because it's filled with less lies, right? Less striving, less proving. This is really the deep healing stuff. I see the lie. I don't criticize myself for carrying the lie around, for perpetuating the lie. I'm going to love even my lies. And love returns things back to its original form from source. Love turns lies back into the truth. Where you thought you were unlovable, you see that you are not only lovable, but love itself. It's amazing. So we give our suffering upward to source. We work with our heart. We become the healer. We transform. And source just keeps pouring love into us. So we breathe. And it's really good news that you are always free to make the choice about how you see yourself. You are always free to make a choice, an old choice, a new choice, a better choice, a more loving choice about how you see yourself. And choosing to identify with the truth of yourself, with your spiritual nature, is how you live a heart-centered life. This is how you become whole. This is the path to healing. This is you being the healer. I identify as love. So here's the breakdown. We're spiritual beings embodied in this human form. You're not your thoughts. You're not your intellect. You are definitely not your body. You are definitely not your feelings or your emotions. You're so much more. The ego is going to use the physical body, the emotions, as a way to attempt to keep us unaware of our divine light. That's its function. It's this beautiful, creative tension for us to wake up. So the smaller self is going to over-identify with all the stuff in the physical that we think proves how valuable we are, right? Worthlessness and worthiness, they're ego constructs. It's a conversation that the unhealed self is perpetuating. Worth does not need to be earned. It actually cannot be earned. And that awareness is liberation. You are worth itself. No question about it. I have some really beautiful, deep journaling questions for you. If you head to my site, daniellelaporte.com/love notes, you'll find this journaling exercise. I'll ask you one of the questions now. Think of a really cherished person in your life. You just really love and adore them. Okay? They're in your living room crying. They're distraught. They're pouring out all of their emotions, and they're saying that they're feeling so behind on life, saying, why isn't my plan working? I have been patient. Why is this still happening? It's making me feel like I just don't deserve what I've been asking for. I just feel worthless, they say. But then, with your steady, very clear, overflowing love for them, you love them so deeply, you see their beauty, what would you say to them? Before I give you some suggested responses, thank you for being here. If this creates any clarity, alleviation of suffering, some sweetness, please head over and leave a review. It helps us uplift the algorithm so more people can get content about love. Here's how you might want to respond to your friend. You're beautiful, as is. You're exquisite, beloved. You're a spark of the infinite. You are a flame in the fire of creation. Radiant, loved before time and loved for eternity. No question about it. Thank you so much for listening, for feeling, for spreading the word with love.